We should be. Yep, there we are. We are live. Welcome, everyone. This is going to be a fantastic episode. I'm about ready to spread the word out there. But before we get started, Steve, in the appropriate pronunciation, Rene?
Rainy. Like
Rene. Okay. Rene Boucher and Kevin Donaldson are here. East Coast icons. That's exactly how I played it and how I stated it. So welcome, guys. Thank you for sharing the afternoon with me. And you guys can chat. There's already 7 people in the room. This is ridiculous. I haven't even spread the word yet. So you guys go ahead and talk amongst yourself, and I will share with everyone.
There you go.
I was just thinking that we've got. I can't do math in my head anymore, but I think we're close to or over 100 years of paintball experience between the three of us.
Oh, absolutely. Easily,
yeah.
Easily. I mean, God.
My first game was in 84.
April 83 for me.
Yeah.
October 83.
Yeah.
You guys got me beat. Jeez.
Not by much, Rainy. It's not like dog years, dude, you know?
Right.
And I started my field in 85. So I played for a year and looked.
Well, Steve's got both of us beat because me, I played my first game in 83 once. And then I didn't come back out again till 84. But Steve was already, a mother of destruction.
Well, I went in October. It was supposed to be a trip from work. And we were all going to meet at the office parking lot and drive out to Jim Thorpe, PA skirmish, the friendly war game all together. And I got to the parking lot and nobody else showed. And at that point, I had a very, very tough decision to make because, frankly, you didn't know anything about paintball back then when you went to play. You had no idea what was actually going on out there in the woods. Were you ever going to come home again? I mean, and
right.
So I said, screw it. I really wanted to do this. And I drove out there by myself. I played that one day. And I fell in love with it. It was a while before I went back, but when I did go back, it was every day, both days of the weekend, just as soon as the weather allowed it, continuously. I fell in love with it.
Same here, 84.
Hey, Rob.
I like seeing
Rob's
that.
one of my brothers on the Blasters now. That was Rob.
Yeah, Juvie and I bought a house in Massachusetts, an apartment building, and I got to know my neighbors, and the guy showed me this card and says, hey, there's a place in New Hampshire that plays paintball. Let's go do that this weekend. I says, yeah, let's do it. So we grabbed Juvie and his wife, and we went out there, and again, like Steve said, we met at a parking lot type thing, so we had to follow them out into the woods. And we get out there, and all the regulars are already there. You've got people who have been there before, but the new guys, So we're going through the box, and all Nell Spot 007s, and we get the shop goggles, no masks.
Mark Gong, you see Mark Gong? Just hey, Mark.
Yep.
No,
Mark,
remember this? Bah.
Mark, how are you, brother?
Bah.
That's funny.
Fellow sheep.
Hey, Mark, you're going to show him that picture. You pinching my nipple with the togas on.
that sounds like a story.
Oh.
Was that one of the AM Open parties?
Yeah, one of Gino's.
Yep.
One of Gino's. And I'd never seen the picture, and Mark sent it to me a couple years back, and I archived it somewhere. It was funny.
Rob Walker, howdy, Rob. Potatoes. Oh my God. I will. remind me, and I will tell that story because it's quite weird.
Go ahead. We have time. We have all the time.
Hey, if anybody wants to chime in, we're more than happy to have you jump in with us. You know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we were at an early World Cup, one of the cow patty World Cups down in Florida, and we all went out to, what was it, Charlie's Steakhouse? Was that the name of it, Kevin?
Yep, that's the one.
And you know, it was everybody from the industry went out to Charlie's, and we were going to order. And I apparently said, I think it was to Rob, listen, I got to go to the bathroom. When the waiter comes by, order me one of those beefsteak tomatoes for the appetizer. So I went to the bathroom and I came back and talk. And the waiter comes by and puts this beefsteak tomato in front of me. And I look at the waiter and I said, what's this? And he's like, it's your appetizer, your beefsteak tomato. And I'm like, I didn't order no fucking tomato. And to this day, I do not remember the earlier part about having said, order me the tomato. It would just completely, I must have had some kind of stroke or something because I don't remember it. So a year, 2 years, 3 years later, we're putting together the USPL tournament out in Indiana, and Rob shows up with a T-shirt that has a big beefsteak tomato in the middle of it and a circle with a line through it and the legend "No fucking tomatoes" written on it.
Good story. Good story.
Thank you, Rob, for that interesting look into just one of the many stories that will happen today, I am sure. What, Mark Gong, what has been your guys' experiences with Mark? I mean, Mark goes back to the very early days as well, and he knows all of you.
The three of us played for a team called Captain Bo Peep and his Flock of Sheep.
Yep.
And Jimmy Anderson was the captain. It was a joke team because, you know, we just put together a bunch of guys and we went and played and we would get the shit shot out of us because, you know, we weren't organized. We were all a bunch of, you know, let's not say drug addicts or, you know,
guys.
But, you know, we did it to get away from the competition, really, you know, and just have a good time with our friends.
Yep.
So we came up, we were getting shot all the time. It was like we were dying like sheep. So anyway, to make a long story short, Mark Gong is also a member of that crew.
Perfect.
The three of us and Mark all played together.
That's why he was giving. I knew it was Bo Peep, but I didn't know. That's why he was giving the ba earlier. So
that's why we give the ba, because that's what we actually used to do when we were playing.
Codes.
We'd be all bond like sheep.
Yep.
And what was hilarious about it is you had like Ronnie Kilborn,
right?
Dave Youngblood, Bo Pollock, Shane Pastana, Darryl Trent, us. Out in England, like sheep in the middle of a tournament. In England.
Out in England, we were playing. We had an all-star team. But we were kicking ass there for a while.
I was just going to ask that about the England, because Kevin said when we were on earlier with Marcus that you guys went over there to the UK. Were you buying over there as well?
Oh my God. I have a UK story that I don't know. Rainey will probably remember. We go out there and we got the superstar team, right? Of guys from the US, all industry guys, basically. We were promoting all our different businesses, but we decided, or whatever we were doing, and play together. So we go out there and we draw this team, the Manchester Lions. Remember, Rainey?
Yes, I do.
And, we had no codes or anything. No codes. So we play them the first round of the prelims, and we beat them handily. But towards the end of the game, our code for everybody to get up and go was Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So we go out, we're playing them, we're getting into the end of the game, we're in good position, and we start yelling Mickey Mouse, and we blow them off the field. Later on in the event, we draw them again. Remember, Rainey?
Yes.
And they had news and people there, like videoing the event. So we go out again, we play them again. Now we've played them, and they know what's up.
Yeah.
So we go out again, get towards the middle end of the game, we start yelling Mickey Mouse, and again we beat them. So at the end of the game, being that we were from the U.S., the press that was there was interested in what happened, and the Manchester Lions were basically a home team.
Yep. So
the person that was doing the interview says to the Manchester Lions, you're playing this team from the U.S., they're a decent team. What happened? And the captain of the team says, they fucking Mickey Moused us again. You remember that, Rainey?
I do. I do. And I remember Dave Youngblood. He was trying to be the field captain at the time. And I don't know if it was the Lions or it was Bart's Stud Squad, but we played Bart's Stud Squad to almost draw one time because all they did, they just bunkered in and we had to go dig them out. And then we got to play them again. And we all had these, remember pulling out the plastic spoons? We're gonna have to come and dig you out again. And they were like, they didn't know what to do because we were just playing. I mean, we were just playing around. But we had so much talent on that team that we couldn't help but win a lot of these games.
Right.
Even if we lost a lot of people, a couple of guys, there was still enough talent there to take on some of the best in the world, and we were doing it.
Okay. We had such a good time.
That was
such a good time in the UK, man. Those Mayhem tournaments and the experiences we had there were just, I got another story, Rainey. You might not.
You remember Freddie Schultz down there when Jimmy Anderson was in there and Jerry Braun was there, and Freddie's always on the left-hand side. He's on the left-hand tape. He was covering us. And I said, Freddie, move up. And Jim goes, Freddie, left. I said, no, Jim, not left. Move up. He goes, no, Rainey, Freddie, left.
Right.
What? Next thing I know, I'm getting my left side of my head's getting all shot up, and yeah, for sure, yeah, Freddie left. He was gone.
Dude, I'm going to tell a story, Rainey. You probably don't want me to tell about one trip to England. Okay. Remember, we went to the museum. Me, you, and Jimmy Anderson. Whatever museum it was, the Museum of London.
Yep. They had all the Egyptian stuff in there too.
Kevin,
and sometimes Kevin has the lag loop. Now he comes back. There he goes.
Yeah, now I come back. So anyway, I know Rainey doesn't want me to tell it, but I have to tell it.
Go ahead.
So Jimmy and Rainey are hanging out. Jimmy and Rainey are outside before me. I come out after them, and I come down the stairs, and we're on the street in London, sitting on a wall. We're going to smoke a cigarette or whatever. And I say to Jimmy and Rainey, I'm like, man, did you guys see Robin Hood's bow?
Oh, Jesus. Yeah. I was
and fucking Rainey went running back in, and I looked at Jimmy Anderson, and we just cracked up. Oh.
That's a true story.
That's a true story.
Yeah.
Mark was wondering if, Rainey, if you had your Men in Tights pants still from MGM.
Yeah. Only you, Mark. Good man. Yeah, I still got them. I don't know where they are, but I have the sweatshirt on anyway. I doubt if I have those pants.
One of the things that we get the most questions about is the early days because not many people were there. Kevin,
that's what they were just talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well. Let's pick an era in the early days. How far back, Kevin, do you want to go back where Steve and Rainey kind of enmesh themselves with you. Tell me the story of how you guys met.
We're
going back to the beginning of time.
Well, we can.
Yeah, that's New York.
Yeah, it would
Go
be
ahead, guys.
Yeah, first time I got to shoot at Steve.
Air pistol open. Well, now
who froze me?
I know that this gun shot Kevin, but I don't remember whether or not it shot Rainey.
It might have.
Damn.
What was that?
Damn.
What was that?
I'm back.
What's that?
Was that an automag? No.
Yeah.
I was shooting the PMI 3 out there back in the day. That was it. We top off our CO2 tanks with nitrogen.
I met Kevin the first time at one of the air pistol opens. It was either 87 or 88.
Okay.
And I know for sure when I knew Rainey. I don't remember whether I met him earlier or not, because I had to have. There were basically 14 to 24 teams that actually traveled around the country.
Yep.
And we were all at the same events, and we all knew of each other, if not shot at each other or made faces at each other across the staging area or whatever it may be.
Yep.
But it was another event in New York. It wasn't an ASO. I think it was a couple of years before. I had been writing for any magazine that came out covering paintball. I'd been writing for them. And Rainey had Paintball News and came up to me and asked me if I wanted to write for his publication. And I was very full of myself and very arrogant. And I asked him what he was paying. And it was not a rate that was comparable with what I was getting from other publications. And I basically said, well, when you can afford me, then I'll be happy to write for you. And I walked away.
Yeah.
And I regretted that. But a couple of years later, there was a big, and Kevin and I were just talking about this the other day. There was a big political battle going on in the industry. And just about every publication that I had been writing for was on the other side of the political debate and would not take anything that I was writing about it. And I called up Rainey and said, listen, this is what's going on and I need to get the word out. And he said, well, I don't edit for politics, so send it along. And it did, and that led to, or was a piece of leading to the dissolution of the IPPA back in the day.
Yeah, and I lost a few advertisers over there too. I remember.
Yeah. Everybody was always using the dollar to try and influence the politics. So
we did that a lot. We do safety tests on things, and next thing you know, I'm missing a full page ad because I tell the truth on it, whether it happened or not. Oh, we lost Kevin. There he is.
Nope, I'm back.
Yep. Just the technical side of things.
It got to the point where it was just as important. It said as much, I should say. It said as much if I did not write up an event for one of the publications than if I had done a review, because my not saying anything about it meant that it was a crappy event.
Exactly. You were never known for sugarcoating anything. So
no, it was, let's do this thing right. And the best thing about my team, the Werewolves, was that we institutionalized self-criticism. And it became a very positive thing to admit, this is what I did wrong during the game. This is how I fucked up everybody. And this is what I'm thinking of doing to correct it. And I try to apply the same thing to my commentary on the industry as a whole. Let's find out what went wrong so that we can fix it. Not so that we can point fingers, but so that we can fix it.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Rainey, since we're on the topic of media, can you could you share with the people how Paintball News was started, how the publication business came about in your area, all of that, please? Because it's fascinating.
I can blame Jerry for it a little bit.
Okay, yeah.
But Jerry had contacted me. I met Jerry going out to one of his fields. We were the Reapers back then, before New England Express. And we were kind of known as a kind of a brawling team. But yeah, we went out and Jerry asked me to write a story. There was something happening at Canopy Lake in New Hampshire. So I wrote the story for him. That was the first time I had been published. And my wife Juvie was working selling ads at a local newspaper. And, I'd go pick her up after work, or I'd meet her after work where I was working, because I was still working a real job back then.
Yep.
And she's cutting and pasting, ads and copy into the paper. And I went, boy, this looks, I said, we could do this. And she goes, yeah, we could. Because we were running paintball, we were running Survival Safari at the time. We had a paintball field, and just reading about all the problems that field owners were having communicating, and it was, all the magazines were like 3 months behind.
Yeah.
And we said, if we put together a newspaper, gave it away for free, tried to just do it with the ads, this thing would be out within a week. We could just UPS it out. So we started with the Northeast.
That was one of the smartest things you did, I thought, was start regionally.
Yeah, well, Rick Fairbanks Juvie ended up selling a full-page ad to Dennis Tittman. Dennis, out of nowhere, said, yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yep.
I'll support you. And then Rick Fairbanks did it with the National Paintball Supply. And then we started picking up fields left and right. And I came up with the idea to put a map on the back page and to give the field owners some, so people would pick it up and give it out for free. I started sending, I think back then it was like 25 papers to each field.
Yep.
And then we upped it to 30, and then we upped it to 50 to some of the bigger fields for them just to give away to the players. And,
but
I used to send them to my stores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that people. Sorry, Steve.
That's all right. That one of the things back in the day was nobody wanted a list of fields available to the general.
Yeah.
Nobody wanted it because they all had their own little fiefdom that they were advertising locally to, and they did not want anybody to discover where their competitors were.
Yep, that's true. That's true. And it was almost like a compelled thing to do, when I said, so I put my field there, I put Canopy, and I remember Paul Rubito reaming me out. He owned Canopy Paintball. That was the oldest one that's been out there for a long time. It was one of the first fields in New Hampshire. Oh yeah, geez. I could tell you the paint price wars. When I lowered my paintballs down to $2.50 a tube, and he went mental on me. It's $3 a tube. It's $3 a tube, and you're going to keep it at $3. Fuck you.
Yeah.
$2.50 is good. I'm making plenty of money on it. It's like a drug deal, you buy it out of the.
Well, we had that same fight several years later with the tournaments.
Yeah.
Bring your own paint.
Yeah.
Which was the ASO, which was Kevin's.
Yeah, they went crazy on me.
Yeah,
all the promoters for that. Because nobody had ever done it before. I was like, get your paint from whoever you want to get your paint from.
This is what we all wanted.
I'm not selling paint at my event.
And Kevin, you're responsible for a lot of us getting paint sponsors. Because once you were doing good,
what's the Bring your own.
All of a sudden, they're calling you up saying, "Hey, you want to shoot our paint? We'll supply it for every one of your events." I'm like,
You know, dude, I never thought about that. You know, I never thought about that.
Well, that works
You know?
because before we were forced to buy what was there, and if it was shitty paint, it was a shitty event. You know, there was nothing.
Well,
but
that's why
problems.
we changed that. But I remember the heat I got.
Oh, it was awful.
Yeah. Yeah,
Shit, you know.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
You guys know that better than anybody.
I do.
Yep.
I was never one to show favoritism. You know what it really was about? I wanted everybody to be able to be involved.
Yeah.
I was always about total inclusion. You guys can attest to that.
Yep. That's a fact.
Because Steve, it's you especially, because you and I discussed almost every step of those events I put on. You know, you were there with me. Rainey, you were too. You know, come on, you promoted my stuff.
Yeah,
you were my go-to magazine. You know, paper.
Well, my
my
argument was that the only way that we were going to get the price of paint to come down was by making it a competitive thing. Because with the way that a couple of manufacturers were dominating the market through tournament paint only, there was no way that was going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you
look
at what happened afterwards, how many more paint manufacturers were there? There was a ton.
True. Yep. Well, back then, RP Shear had everything locked up, right?
Well, you had Nelson was still around through their local distribution network.
Yeah, I was sponsoring a tournament in Florida with Bullseye, and Bullseye wanted to supply the paint, but he just said, "Hey, you got to use my paint." I said, "I don't know if that's going to fly," because this was in the beginning of the NPPL, just the very beginning.
Yeah.
And it ended up, RP Shear truck came down there. And,
yeah.
I'm like, holy
that
crap!
Truck came down there.
Yeah. I thought there was going to be a war.
Well, people were calling me up, going, "You're out of your mind." Jerry Braun, another, might as well bring Jerry into the. He was like, "You're going to ruin the whole industry," and I'm like, Jerry, look, we're going to a.
Oh, Kevin, breaking up.
He gets it. It goes off of his energy. I believe his energy takes the
more
there you go.
The more wound up he gets, he's
exactly
pulled it out of the computer.
Yep.
Yeah, Kevin, you have to stay calm.
Yep. Your aura.
All right. You guys know I can't do that.
Right.
I'm sucking the oxygen out of the room.
And the electronics can't work.
Right.
Well,
come on, you guys know how passionate I am. I don't have to tell you.
Yeah.
We're talking about a lot of this was during and right after the pump era of the game.
Right.
And I know that in 89 through 91, my team continued to play pump, even though semis were coming into the market. We weren't happy with the reliability of semi-autos at that point, so we stuck with pump guns. But the volume of paint that we were shooting in those events was pretty close to comparable to what we would. No, it was, if you think of, each of my guys was carrying 600 to 800 rounds per game.
Yep.
And with a good pump gun, reasonably accurately, you could get 7+ rounds a second out the barrel.
Yeah.
So the volume, but the price, we were paying what, 6, 8, 10 cents a ball, 12 cents a ball at some of these events.
Yeah.
And it was like, and at the same time, the promoters are saying, why are we only getting 18 teams at this event?
Right.
Yep.
Because the entry fee is $3,500 fucking dollars, and you're going to spend another $5,000 on paint. That's why.
Right.
Before you even got on a plane.
Before you even got on a plane. Yes, absolutely.
That's a fact.
And it's one of the things that, like, the people now and the players now look at it. They have, opinions on how the leagues are run. You guys were there at the formation of leagues. You guys influenced leagues. You guys collectively shaped and developed leagues. How was that from your perspective?
It's kind of an East Coast, West Coast.
I think
thing
it was
for a while.
Yeah. It was a revolution, is what it was. It was a mutiny, And I think the two guys that are on here with me, the three of us are really the ones that started the whole damn mutiny.
Yeah,
we just got so disgusted.
Well, my buddy Biff Thiel was also.
Biff also can't leave Biff out.
Also, exactly.
Biff. Wisconsin.
Yep.
SOBs.
Yep.
I know Biff. Yep. I go back. Yep.
And Jimmy Anderson, who is
Jimmy Anderson. Well, we started before we even approached the Iron Man or Aftershock. Like Steve said, Rainey, me, Biff, and Steve and Jimmy really put this whole thing together.
Yep. Before
that, and then we ran my ASO Players Cup, and all of the stuff that we've been discussing, how to make it better, how to make
it could work.
Yep.
What we tried it at Jerry's Field as a beta test.
Yep.
That was one of the best
after
tournaments.
that event, and I'm going to tell you this. I ran that tournament. What did we have? 50 teams or something? 48, 50 teams.
48 teams. Yeah.
48 teams. And of all my time, Steve, me, and Jimmy and Rainey were basically like hanging at the table, and I was waiting at the end of the event for complaints. And remember, Steve, we were like tallying up all the stuff to get ready to put out the statistics and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I see like a bunch of captains walking up the trail, like by the lake where we had our main camp. And I'm like looking at these guys, Jimmy, and I'm like, oh fuck, here we go.
Right.
Because you never go to an event where somebody doesn't come and somebody doesn't bitch about you didn't do this, your judges sucked, your field sucked, this. They all came up to me, shook our hands, and was like, this was the best event we have ever been to. I damn near fell out of my fucking chair.
It was.
Fell out of my chair. And because what we did really was we thought about all the shit we hated about tournament paintball, and we just didn't do any of it.
Right. Yep.
That was the simple formula.
Yeah.
To having a successful event that everybody liked. And I'm sure anybody on there that might be that might be watching this right now will probably chime in and tell you it's the best tournament, because I've heard it, just 6 months ago, I've heard it from people.
Yeah.
That was one of the best tournaments I've ever been in. It was great judging.
It was fun for me because I had been doing stats for a couple of years, and I knew that the numbers told a tale about paintball as a sport. And I wanted to have an opportunity to use that information to put together the fairest draws at an event that I possibly could. Because one of the biggest bitches was I'm always playing the same team during the prelims. And those guys got an easy route into the semifinals, and I have to play all the top teams in order to get there. And we were able to do that. And I remember Kilborn from California.
Ronnie
Bushmasters. Yeah.
Yep.
Bushmasters saying to me.
Bushwhackers, right?
Bushwhackers, right.
Yes.
Yep.
Says to me, it looks at his draw and looks up at me and says, this fucking sucks. But it's the best.
Oh yeah, I remember
something like that. And he was like, "There's nobody that has a better draw than we do. It sucks, but nobody has a better draw than we do." And people went into the tournament knowing, between the reffing crew that we had, which was Blasters and Werewolves, right?
Yep.
And the draw and the rules that we put together. And maybe I'll patting myself on the back a little too much, but the fact that I was doing the scoring meant that they were going to get a fair shake at a tournament for the first time that they'd ever played at a tournament.
You're right.
It is. That was the first time anybody that I could remember. And I mean, I played a lot of tournaments like you guys, but that was the first time we ever had an established ranking system to determine what the schedule was going to be and what the divisions were going to be.
Yes.
Because before that, as these guys will attest, you showed up at an event and they told you who were you were playing against. But what they did was they sat in the back room and they said, all right, the Iron Men are going to play these guys. No draw, no random draw, no lottery system. Just somebody with a pen and paper going, Blasters play, Iron Men, Aftershock, Lords of Discipline, you know?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So Steve had been working on his ranking system, getting information from all the events, both national and regional, that were going around the world, and he ranked all the teams, and that appeared in Paintball Sports every month, right, Steve?
Correct.
Or he started in APG, and then
it was also the only syndicated column in Paintball. It was in Paintball News. It was in APG. It was in Paint Check. It was in Paintball Sports. I even think PGI ran it a couple of times. It was a ranking of tournament teams, 5-man and 10-man, amateur and pro, based on an algorithm that I put together, which was based on the World Chess Ranking Federation's system, because it seemed to fit the best of random people playing or not playing. How do you compare? The question was, how do I compare a team from California that's never played a team from New Jersey to a team from New Jersey? How do I compare them? And the only way to do it is by this formula that basically took a look at everybody that they had played and if there were any interactions along the way and how they stacked up. So there might be a Kevin Bacon 6 degrees of separation between that California team and that New Jersey team, but there was still a way of comparing their performance to each other. And that was what came out in the ranking system. And I had a quarterly book that I put together with all the stats for the teams.
Yep.
I only have this copy right now, but that's the 3rd issue, and it's got all kinds of game stats. So
this is before internets and computers, mind you.
Right.
This guy spent his life compiling this information for all the events that were going. I don't care if it was a 17 regional in Bumblefuck, Idaho.
Right.
This guy had the scores. I don't know how he did it. You know,
I'd called people up and they mailed me stuff. That was what it came down to. But I had an opportunity with the Werewolves. My first team was the Mothers of Destruction, and that grew to like 45 people and became this huge, unmanageable, unsuccessful mess. So I took 6 other guys from the Mothers who were absolutely serious about tournament paintball, and we went off and we formed the Werewolves. But one of the things that I wanted to do with the Werewolves was see if we could develop statistics and metrics that we could measure to use for our own performance improvement. And we did. We kept religious records on target shooting drills, on our games, how long the game lasted, how long somebody was in a game, how many eliminations they got versus how many times they were eliminated, and et cetera, et cetera. And we were able to do things like, and this was against the Blasters. We were playing at a Poconos tournament. We lost this game, but initially we were winning it, and it was because of the stats. We were playing on a field that was a complete slope, and the Blasters were at the top of the field, and we were stuck down at the bottom. And we looked at the numbers, and we knew that there was a spot on our right-hand side of the field that if we ran 6 guys out to, and they all cooked off 200 rounds, we stood a decent percentage chance of eliminating 2, 3, 4 blasters as they were running out of their station. A blind shot on an angle, completely based on how many balls do we have to drop in that area statistically in order to get some eliminations.
Did you guys hang ribbons in the trees above
No, we didn't. No, we didn't do that. We picked a spot on the branch. Here's the branch, and shoot just over that branch, and you'll be dropping the balls down where we want them to go. So we did. We rolled beginning of the game. We rolled 6 guys out. Boom, 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 and then they moved off for their other assignments. And the blasters lost, I think, 4 guys on the breakout. Right from the beginning of the game. Unfortunately, we had no eyes, so we didn't know that they were down 4 players right from the beginning of the game. We weren't able to capitalize on it. It ended in a draw, as so many of our games often did. But it allowed us to do stuff like that. It allowed us to look at another team and say, yeah, we can make that spot before their fastest guy can get to the opposing location. And we really took advantage of it. And I felt that it was only right and interesting that everybody else be able to take advantage of the same kind of thing. So you could look at now with that statistic books, you could look at your draw at a tournament and look at their percentage win and other kinds of information and get some decent idea of how your day was going to go and what kind of points you'd be coming out at the end of the day with.
Right.
So
it's fascinating. It's actually, Steve, here's the thing, is it's fascinating for me to hear that, because I remember it as a kid. It's something that I've actually done myself for my teams, is take stats, but everything that you were hitting on was stuff, and it makes sense. It does prove mathematically that there are tendencies, there are things that we don't pick up with our gut instinct and all of that. It's fantastic.
And his system just made it so much easier to be in and play in a tournament, instead of coming and having a promoter and his sponsor sitting in a back room someplace saying,
lobbying.
Let's put these guys against these guys, against those guys, against, I've heard the backroom talks, and I'm not going to never name any names, but it was blatant. It was blatant.
Because back then, guys, the winning team sold product.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, because you got all the press in the magazine. Like when I owned Action Sports Outfitters, every time the Blasters won an event, my damn phones rang off the fucking hook.
Yeah.
We want,
everybody wanted what we were shooting, what we were wearing. It was like clockwork. The magazine we'd go to the tournament, win the event. 3 weeks later, the magazine comes out with the story or the ad, and my phones are ringing off the hook. So think about that in the early days. That's what it was. Yeah. Tournaments were, the winning team sold product.
Right. A way to, move product, get your team name out there, make some money, do something. It's how it is, and how unfortunately here's a question that I have for you guys. The creation, and I mean, we're tiptoeing around it, but like the creation of the first NPPL came out of this camp, or this brain trust of doing things the right way. Correct? I mean, and there were lots of people involved with it, because it couldn't have happened if it wasn't the way of the people and what they wanted. Can you tiptoe
without a lot of people? I'm gonna go back a little bit, and Rene and Steve will understand this. In the early days of paintball, you had your West Coast and your East Coast.
Yep.
There was nothing in between. We used to joke about it, that we were the East Coast Mafia, and then there was the West Coast Mafia. On the West Coast, you had Russell Maynard, Jessica Sparks, Randy Kamaya, APG, guys like Colin Thompson, Dave Youngblood, Aaron Carter, Bud Orr, that whole crew, Bobby Long. On our side of the coast, it was Steve, Rainey, Jimmy Anderson, myself, Jerry Braun. So we had like almost mirrors of each other.
Right.
You had guys that owned stores, guys that owned fields, guys that were team captains, guys that had magazines or publications. And if you look at the early days, the East Coast publications like Paintball Sports and Paint Check were very East Coast loaded. West Coast APG, Frontline, they were very West Coast loaded. But what really made the MPPL happen was that separation.
That energy. It's that energy.
Yep, it's overwhelming the system.
Yep. He'll catch up.
We actually all became friends. Am I back?
Yep, you're back. You caught up.
Hello?
Yep, you caught up.
All right. So, what wound up happening is, we got very close. Jessica Sparks and us got close. Russell Maynard and us got close. Dave Youngblood started playing for the Blasters. We finally made peace between the coasts.
Yep.
And when we did that, we got into a brain trust, I would call it, right, guys?
Yeah.
We would all just get together and bounce ideas off of each other.
I remember one of the definite moments was I was talking with Bob Long about this whole idea. And Bob basically said, why do I need to travel around the country? I have all these teams in California and it's a lot less expensive. I can just stay over there and we can play amongst ourselves and you guys can play amongst yourselves and nobody will go broke trying to play this sport. And it was, yes, exactly. That's why we need a national league so that doesn't happen, so that we don't break down into just regional play and whatever. We need it to be national.
Right.
And that was
also remember we were doing this almost like the American Revolution. We were hiding in the shadows talking about this.
Yeah.
Because when I would talk to people about doing this, they'd say, I'm not getting involved in that. If so-and-so finds out about it, they're going to ban us from their events.
And this so-and-so is.
And I can remember these were other large promoters, remember? And I said, guys, if all of us were the top 20 teams in the world, if all of us do this, they don't have an event.
That's right.
Remember that?
That was the leverage. That was the leverage.
That was the weapon.
If we agree, all the traveling teams together and say, we'll go to your event if you do this, and we won't go to your event if you don't do this. And that was what we brought to the table when we put the NPPL together. Now, you want to talk about the sheep? You want to talk about the sheep, Kevin? Originally, none of the promoters were invited to the NPPL meeting.
Right.
It was just going to be the teams. And we were going to come back out and say to the promoters, we would be happy to work with you. We really would be happy to work with you, but you have to do these minimal things for us. And I'll tell you about how that came about in a second. And Jerry called me up and said, what do you mean I'm not coming to this thing? And I said, we're just doing teams.
Yep.
We're just doing teams. And he said, okay, I'll be the captain of Bo Peep, and then you can't keep me out. So at that point, I said,
that's true.
At that point, I said, okay, and I called up Lively, and I called up Maynard, and a couple of other Jeff Perlmutter, and a couple of other people, and I said, if you want to come, because now Jerry is going to be there.
Yep.
Right. Remember, I threw Jerry out of the meeting.
Yep.
The first one, yeah.
So remember, I embarrassed them in front of everybody and threw them out of the meeting. I said, you're a promoter. You got no business here. Get in the hallway.
Oh, geez.
From the end of 89 through 92, I was gathering this tournament information from events around the country. I was putting out that book, and I was serving as a clearinghouse for teams and promoters. So a team would call me up and say, we were just at this event and it was lousy reffing and it was this, that, and the other thing. Now, I had been around enough. I was capable of judging simple upset over an event versus a real legitimate issue. And I would winnow these things down when people called me about an event before I called up the promoter. And I wouldn't accuse them. I would ask them questions. Well, I got asked about the chronograph testing, and I would get explanations, and I would try and figure out the best way to keep the peace and to try and move towards improving a lot for everybody. And going into the 92 season, I had what I thought was a breakthrough in that I got Jim Lively to agree to meet a set of tournament requirements that everybody had collectively said, these are the things we want. We want 8 games during preliminary play for our money. We don't want to play the same teams that we play when we're local. Like, an English team coming over from England and playing nothing but English teams during their first day of the prelims.
Right.
And we don't want that. We want X number of referees per field. We want the games to last this long, blah, blah, blah. Not we want you to do the event for free for us, not unreasonable demands, reasonable demands to have a fair event.
Yep.
And Lively actually said to me, well, if I do all these things, it's going to cost me an arm and a leg. And I said to him, if I can show you a way to do these without it costing you an arm and a leg, will you do it? And he laughed. He said, well, if you can show me how to do it, I'll do it. So I showed him how to do it. And he said, I'll do it. So I called up all the teams and I said, go to Lively's event for the first one for the year or whatever, because he's going to meet all of our demands. Mm-hmm. They did. Within 12 hours of the ending of the event on Sunday, I got a call from Rene Miller saying, why did you tell me he was going to do all of these things? Because he didn't do any of them. And I said, all right, we're going to have to talk. So I talked to a bunch of other teams that had been there at the event to verify that none of the things that had been discussed had been implemented. And at that point, they said, all right, we're calling a meeting. And that led to the Chicago meeting for the NPPL. Well, I felt we gave them as much chance as we could possibly give them. And we didn't get any movement in the team's direction. You have to keep the teams happy if you're going to have a sport.
It's true. It's true. Kevin, how do you remember that whole coming together in Chicago?
Well, like I said, it was like the American. Well, I'm gone again. Damn it. I'm back, what? I think. Am I here?
You're back. Yeah, you're here.
You guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep on blanking out, and I got the neighbor mowing the damn lawn next door, so I contend with that. I remember that as being like, the meeting of the revolution, the American Revolution in the basement. Nobody at the event, at Rennick's event, even had any idea what was going on, except what, Steve, 16 of us?
Yep.
When we snuck off to that meeting?
Yep.
Nobody talked about it. Nobody discussed it. We were playing a tournament.
Right.
And there was like no conversations between anybody.
Yeah.
Well, because the retaliation.
It was funny the way it went down. I didn't think that.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I didn't think that many people could keep their mouths shut in paintball.
True. But it worked.
Right.
It
worked.
It did.
Well, by the time we formed the league and came out and we had our rules, the whole system was made basically underground. When we announced it, nobody could defend, there was nothing anybody could do about it. Like the industry didn't even have an opportunity to try and fight it because there was nothing they could do about it. It was a union.
It was the first players league,
They got the promoters we gave 2 events to Jerry, 2 events to Perlmutter, and 2 events to Russ Maynard. And so they got what they wanted, which was a guarantee that the teams would be there. And they sure as heck knew that they could run their events profitably under a bring your own paint.
Within our guidelines, absolutely.
Within those guidelines, absolutely.
Yep.
Well, what did we allow them? We had a certain allowance that they were allowed to make.
Well, the idea originally was that they would bid on events. I will provide all of these services, air, paint at X, staging facilities, trade show, blah, blah, blah. We will provide
That never happened.
for X dollars. That never happened. That would have been a key. If we had gotten that system going, it would have maybe worked the way that it was supposed to. But the big mistake was my not putting my foot down and saying to Jerry, no, you can't even come in as no promoters. You can't wear a different hat. No promoters. But so.
Hey, look, we had nothing but good intentions.
Right.
We actually formed a league that sole purpose was about the players.
Oh, and we were told endlessly by the entire industry, constant phone calls, it's never going to work. 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 And my answer was always, we'll see. I mean, let's fucking try.
Yeah.
Right.
There's actually only a few times that it probably did work against the industry, like you guys, but the IAO, I mean, from my experience, wasn't the IAO like its own entity that operated independently outside of this league, where the industry might have said it won't work or whatever, but you have Deb and Ryan there, and again, that
Deb was well connected.
Yep.
With the powers that be in the industry.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she didn't allow professional teams. Most were made up for the NPPL.
When I say these things, I'm not being negative. I'm discussing the real history as I saw it.
Absolutely.
And these days, it's like, it happened 30 years ago. So what?
Right.
Kind of thing,
Yeah. And going to Deborah's events, you could see why she did it with not letting NPPL or pro leagues to come in there to give the new guys, the up and coming teams some place.
Great. She did great things.
Great things.
Great things. Great events.
I'd be at the trade booth and I'd hear teams coming up going, man, we wish we could play you guys. We wish we could just play you guys. Some of the best teams in the country. Da 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 da. So they had aspirations, and it was like a petri dish for paintball players to kind of come to mature.
Yeah.
And when you guys were talking about, because like my first national event was a lively event. I was fortunate enough that was in the early 90s, but it had that festival atmosphere like you're talking about, the tents, everybody under the tent, showing what they're coming up with, different teams, different this, different that. There was a lot that went into the logistics of it. And then I also played in the NPPL, the early NPPL, what you guys created. And there were elements of that. But again, you look at the IAO from that standpoint where it was a standalone, they spared nothing and they put on a tremendous event. I wish anybody who attended those events said, I wish every event could be like this, but that's unattainable, isn't it?
She ran great events. The first couple of years of the Amateur Open, pros were allowed to play. You were allowed 2 pros on a team.
That's right.
You guys remember?
Yes, that's right.
And I played that event like two or three times with Thunderstorm out of Connecticut. It had as one of the allowed pros.
Mm-hmm.
So as it built, she obviously did away with the pros being able to play at all. But I still went to those events for many years.
Right.
Yep.
She had great events.
I think you were on Team Brass Eagle, weren't you, with JJ and a couple of guys? Played at one of her events.
I played. I don't even how many times I whored out. I don't even remember.
Yeah, I bounced around from a lot of places, and it was fun. It was just a great time.
It was definitely a fun event. There's no doubt about it. I reffed and score kept for her.
Yep.
And we had a couple of clashes on certain things, like chronograph testing and other minor issues. But the question for us with these kinds of ancillary, the trade show and the parties and all that other kinds of thing was, what's our focus? Is our focus the sport?
Understand.
Or having a big trade show? And I remember we talked about this extensively, and I remember that we basically came to the conclusion that we could always add those elements to the pure playing the tournament the way the tournament needs to be played. And that was the approach that we took. It was more important for the fields to be good for play than it was to have a huge trade show.
Yep.
Kind of a thing at the NPPL events.
I can see that. I can see that also from a spectator standpoint. You know what I mean? Like, you want people to stand and watch teams that they can sit and watch teams. If everybody's back at the vending table or having a party, you lose that.
Discussions. I did a tournament series called the GTO, and one of the brilliances that we came up with was that the trade show was arranged like the midway of a carnival between the staging area and the entrance to the fields where we did the chronographing.
Okay.
So the teams always were walking back and forth through the trade show.
Yep.
When they went to play their games, and that worked okay. But my focus was, if we get the sport to be a professional sport, we will get the outside sponsors to come in. And Rainey and I pretty much kind of proved that with the USPL series and bringing Coca-Cola in as a sponsor. There was the possibility that we could bring in lots of major outside and have all that stuff. That's bells and whistles. When it comes to the teams want to know that the referees know the rule booklet inside and out, that the fields are even as much as you can make them, that the rules are going to be enforced. They're going to get a decent number of games, and they're going to have good play. They have all their gear. They have, and they're all sponsored. What are they going to a trade show for?
Right.
When they've got all of that stuff. So that was the art. Now later, if we get the spectators to come in and watch the sport, that's when the trade show comes in, because that's who you're going to sell to, are the people that don't have anything that are watching the games going, that's pretty cool.
Yep. It's true. It is true. Kevin, are you still okay? You're still. I didn't know.
Okay.
Okay.
Still moving.
I'm okay.
Right.
At the moment.
Yeah.
So you asked me a question.
Right. And that's what I'm lining up for right now. You've seen the newest resurgence in classic paintball. You have seen many things happen with that. I only can imagine that Steve and Rainey have been paying attention, because paintball is their life, or at least was a huge part of their life. But again, it's one of those things. Do you think what happened before needs to happen again? And could it even be that way? Because there have been other leagues that have been tried to start, whether it's airball, classic, whatever it is.
I believe, whether or not it could happen again, I don't know. I can't answer that. What I do believe is that we need another league managed and run by the players and not the industry. I believe that in 1991, and I still believe that today.
Yep.
I don't look. The players of the game, right?
Right.
Paintball.
And Kevin's energy takes it again. And Jeremy Salm is sounding off, I think, understanding my question with this.
Jeremy agrees with me. The industry should not be moving us around like sheep. The industry should be dependent on the players. So we should dictate what we want, and I mean, look, this is what started the revolution 30 years ago. My attitude has not changed.
Right.
My attitude about that has not changed. Now, look, I love all the guys in the industry. They're all my friends, and I want to see everybody successful. But I'm tired of watching us be led around by the nose by the industry.
Right.
You know, we're the guys that vote with our dollars every week. You know, every month, every year. So I believe that as players, we should form a union, do something to get together and do what we did with the old MPPL. You guys want to be in the tournament industry? These are the rules. Play by the rules, we'll be there. Don't play by the rules, sorry. It shouldn't be about lining pockets. It shouldn't be about making profits. It shouldn't be about paying big salaries. It should be about us.
Well,
and I'm probably, if anybody watches this, I'm probably pissing them all off, but you asked. I don't know what you think, Steve, and I don't know what you think, Rainey, but my attitude hasn't changed in 30 years.
Well, you know what? You both know that I'm very burnt out on paintball and have been for a while.
Yeah.
And there are more reasons for that than the stuff that we're discussing. But if I were to frame the problem so that we can come up with a solution, I would put it this way. And again, I don't mean this to cast a negative light on any of the participants. This is just the playing field. These are the pieces that we're dealing with.
Right.
The industry, for a variety of different reasons, and if you can characterize it as the industry, has focused internally instead of externally. It's safer. It guarantees them their money. They can make more profit. They can make reliable profit. They're dealing with a known quantity. All reasons why businesses, good reasons why businesses make certain decisions about how they do things.
True.
But this sport had a chance, I don't know if it does anymore, but had a chance to really become a major sport. Not one of the top 4, but certainly maybe number 5, something like that. Way back in the day, I did research on what kinds of corporate sponsorship televised sports were receiving. Now, this is quite a number of years ago, so the numbers are completely different now. But the number 40 televised sport was women's college field hockey.
Yeah, I remember that.
And they were getting what, something like $4 million a year in corporate sponsorship.
Yep.
$4 million a year to run 4 or 5 paintball tournaments. Come on, that's number 40. We could shoot for number 40.
Right.
But the industry does not want to give up certain things that they perceive as their levers of control over their profitable businesses. And were unwilling to work in concert in the areas where they had to work in concert in order to attract that, to provide a product that would attract the outside sports world sponsorship industry.
Understand.
And that problem, I think, still remains an issue.
A lot of that was internally resisted by manufacturers, by promoters. When I started Paintball News Network, the marketing arm, and hired
a guy,
Hutchinson, yeah, yeah, but he was a PR guy for Best Western, and I flew him out here and I put him up, and to help me push this. And we went and we paid $10,000 to American Sports Data and had paintball taken out of the hunting and shooting category and put into the extreme sports category. And by the time they were done doing their stats, we were number 3, right underneath skateboarding.
Right.
You know who was number 1? Roller skating.
Roller skating. Yep.
Roller skating. Because everybody has a set of roller. They did it on sales, on dollars. So everybody bought a pair of roller skates. Everybody had a pair of roller skates in their closet somewhere.
Right.
Paintball became number 3. And then we started attracting people like Coca-Cola and people like Fuji and those people. And then, to the demise of our entire industry, they started, the big corporations started buying up paintball.
Yep.
The speculators started buying them up. No longer a mom and pop business, no longer they just bought them up and bought them out. And it eventually it killed us.
Yeah.
That's what killed us. Because when they decided in 08, 07 and 08, when they decided collectively, all of them together, competitors, decided to completely stop all print advertising in 1 week. Every magazine, every newspaper, every publication went out of business immediately.
So, Rainey, it's safe to say that your $10,000 investment fucked you in the long run, huh?
Yeah.
All of our investments did.
Because once paintball, once corporate America saw your homework, they seized the opportunity.
It was the end.
Not like the old days when everybody in paintball was working out of their basement or their garage.
Everybody in paintball was in paintball.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's where paintball
and was a player.
Yeah.
Right? Back in the day when we started, anybody that had anything to do with product, innovation, anything, was a team player on a top team first.
Yes.
It's true.
You know?
Yep.
It's a fact.
And
all the shit we did back then, invented.
Just to tie it into, isn't there room? Doesn't it have to be not just one way or another?
Oh, sure.
I mean, am I an idealist? Am I just not seeing the full scope of things?
Yeah, if you look at it from a player's perspective or a team's perspective, there's only so many events you can actually afford to attend every year.
Right.
So you're trying to find, before the NPPL, we're trying to find promoters that promoted good events.
Yes.
Ones that you're going to go to and not get fucked.
Yep.
But,
because, and just let me characterize this here, okay?
Okay.
You were paying to get fucked.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely, we're paying.
And what you paid to get fucked, you could have spent in New York a lot more effectively.
Exactly.
Right. Got more for your money.
So this is it's not just, oh, we like the sport and we want to have good events. It's because we were spending good solid coin.
Yes.
In order to get fucked over.
Right.
And, oh, this one's going to be different. No, it wasn't. This one's going to be different. No, it wasn't. This one's going to be different. No, it wasn't. How many more times are we going to do this and not be able to sit down for a week?
Exactly. You're exactly right.
Yeah. And again, I don't think, in my opinion, I don't think that we should hide from our past because our past is out there. It's not a matter of putting the genie back in the bottle because the genie has been out, but not many people are really talking about it and saying things to grow. It's not so much grow paintball. Again, it's kind of like what Kevin's doing with the Woodsball World Cup. Okay, if he throws an event, that's amazing. Large fields, exactly proper woods ball fields, great reffing, great choices, great everything. teams are going to keep coming back to it. I understand, and I've been a part of some of those events where it just doesn't seem that anybody cares, and you don't want to keep coming back and going back and going back, but you have no options. And I'm not even saying large national events. I'm saying regional events.
Right.
But if it starts at the bottom, it goes to the top. If it starts at the top, it goes to the bottom.
But here's the to my mind, here's the thing. When you have a professional sport, players and the teams are not paying to be the entertainment. They're being paid to be the entertainment.
Yes.
There is not enough money in paintball without going outside of paintball.
True.
To get to the point where the teams do not have to pay in order to be the entertainment. The only way that it's going to happen is to bring in outside dollars.
Right.
And so if we ever want to get to that and have this be more than a hobby or something like that, that people are very dedicated to and probably put too much on their credit cards in order to support, and et cetera, the only way is if you're going to have it be a national thing that will attract enough advertising dollars to bring in the outside dollars to say, okay, we'll pay the teams in order to be the entertainment.
Yes.
So if you have any thoughts in those directions, any desire in those directions, that's the way that it has to go in order to be achievable.
For sure.
It makes sense. It makes complete sense. Anything to contribute on that end, Rainey?
That's the right way to do it. You know, trying to resurrect something that, at least in all of our experiences, we were in the heyday. We played in the heyday of paintball. You know, we played Russian teams, and we played French teams, and we played English teams, and Canadian teams, and developed rapport and friendships that lasted a lifetime.
Right.
But nowadays, what Kevin's doing now with going back to basics, and I picked a little bit up on that too. I don't think it's just Kevin doing the back to basics Woodfield.
No,
but it's because it's a growing trend now.
It is. It is definitely.
I'm glad to see it. I think MagFed was a great idea, but nobody's going to give up their other guns to just shoot MagFed.
Right.
But it is a good idea. It's a great
look. We've got some great events going on now. We got some guys that really have their hearts in the right place. You know,
True.
You got the NXL doing the ICPL. They're putting on some really good events.
True.
You know, with them, you get the show. You got Tim Montresor running that Iron City Classic out in Pittsburgh, which is just amazing. It is an amazing event. I think it's right now the Woodstock of paintball. You know, anybody who's anybody should go to that event.
I would
agree.
agree.
You know, what I'm doing and Jerry and I are doing is just, there's a lot of teams out there that approach me at these events and say to me, hey, look, the best events we ever did were at Jerry's Field. Yep. We love Jerry's Fields for woods. You know, the terrain and the stone walls and the old, you know, Civil War walls and the rolling hills and the big hardwoods and the pine forests. And, you know, why can't you do one over there? We just want to play woods ball. That's it. And I said, you know, for years I've been saying, yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it. But now I see, you know, enough teams interested in doing that. You know, not only that, but playing the classic format, which I think is great right now at this point in paintball and mechanical. The teams now are, you know, we're transitioning scenario players and airball players into a classic format. So you need the things like hyperball, and you need the things like these hybrid fields, and you need the mounds fields to encourage those guys to come over and then give them a little taste of the woods. But my event, or Jerry and our event, the Woods Ball World Cup, our idea is all these guys that have never really played woods ball, when you go to these classic events, some of these younger players haven't had enough experience in the woods. So why not give them a woods-only event, give them a good time, and let them get more woods ball experience? 2 games per event is not enough for these guys to really learn woods ball. Not to mention the fact that there's a lot of fields in the United States, in the South, in Nevada, in Southern California, in all these states, they don't have woods.
Right.
New England, woods.
Colorado.
Yeah.
Original 13 colonies, woods.
Yeah.
Like we have here.
Yep.
Exactly.
So, and not to, there's a lot of nostalgia at Jerry Braun's field too. It is the old in the world.
You can still find 12.
No field has been around longer than that.
That's true.
What?
You can still find 12 grams in plastic tubes out there.
Oh my God. Yeah. We call them dinosaur eggs now because we're constantly we're building the fields. We're unearthing those things by the hundreds.
Yeah.
Sorry for all you tree huggers out there, but
right.
I was out deer hunting in my old paintball field, and I rolled on one. I stepped on a 12 gram. I went, holy crap.
Do you guys agree with me or not that if you learn how to play woods ball, you can play any other format of the game?
That's a fact.
Absolutely.
That's a fact.
Look, I say it all the time. I say it all the time on these podcasts. I say, look, hyperball, all these concept fields, these athletic kids are just amazing.
Yeah.
But they've only got like a 3-dimensional game.
Right. Not a 5-dimensional game.
Exactly.
I've said this so many times, it's being excellent at checkers, really fast, jump in the pieces, get to the end, king me, come back, wipe out all the pieces.
Go play chess.
Versus chess.
Yeah. Exactly.
Versus chess. Which is in chess, you could have 3 pieces left, right? You could have a queen, you have a knight, and you have a friggin' rook. And you can beat the other team with 8 pieces on it.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the younger players that haven't experienced that, it gives you so much more to your game. The mental part of the game.
Yes.
The motions are easy, but playing the game in your mind, always being 3 moves ahead of your opponent, always looking, your objective is to get the flag, not to shoot the guy in front of you. It's chess versus checkers. It's simple.
Last guy that's going to shoot you is the one directly in front of you.
Yeah. Not on an airball field.
No, not on
when guys are getting in these one-on-one gunfights, it's like a 50-50, right?
Yeah.
You can't get tunnel vision in the woods on a one-on-one gunfight because before you know it, you're getting 16 shots in your ass. Yeah.
Or Fred left.
Yeah, or Fred left.
Yeah, Fred left, right. I'm not believe me, guys, I'm not putting down these airball guys. I'm not putting down these X-ball kids. They're freaking amazing, man.
Right.
I watch those games. I enjoy watching those guys play. I go on to, Go Sports, and I just shake my head like, oh my God, are these fucking kids amazing? Amazing.
They are. They really are. Even the divisional players. It's one of the things now from current leagues, the divisional guys just want to see themselves on TV. Only the pros are, broadcast and whatever. And it's one of the things that I've talked with some of the NXL owners, some of the NXL team owners, some of the players. And it's like, well, how really hard could it be to have cameras on divisional fields as well? Because again, that's like value added. But, people even now, players even now feel that their voices aren't heard necessarily. And where you guys essentially gave players a voice, looked out for the players. And again, can't there be both? Can't there be an industry-led league, and can't there be an independent league and the people vote with their dollars? Isn't that again ideal?
Voting with the dollars. If the team decides that they're going to go to the team-based league, they may not have the dollars to go to the industry events and vice versa.
Right.
the sport is filled with instances where teams were told, if you go and play in that series, you're not playing in my series.
True.
Etc.
But now that sponsorship dollars, here's the interesting rub is, now that sponsorship dollars have dried up, there is little pull or control that these guys have over teams anymore. And I think that that's the reason why other now again, here it is, other airball leagues. I understand why other nationally based airball leagues fail is because they don't have a base. They just announce themselves and, hey, here I am and come and support me. And without a base, that just doesn't happen. It can't happen. It's just hard. You have to have regional support and build it up that way. But I think, again, more people would like to play closer to home where it's less expensive. And then that starts in geographic areas.
I'm not saying anything.
I'm not saying anything either.
God damn.
I'm not commenting. I have no comment on that, right, guys?
Nothing.
Okay.
I can't believe we all got the same place at the same time, man. That's funny.
So
let's just put it this way. There might be another revolution coming real soon.
Okay, good.
But you got to start small.
Right.
Look, I see the problem with paintball. Is that, everybody that's running tournaments is trying to fish the same pond, like there's nobody out there really trying to develop a new player base. The industry's guilty of that too, because, all they're doing, they're so short-sighted sometimes that they don't think about the fact that they should be investing more money in the outside world.
True.
Than inside paintball. Yep. We've got to reach more players. We've got to bring in more new blood. We've got to, that's important not only to leagues and tournaments, but it's important to the industry. How many times can a manufacturer produce a gun and then constantly just sell the same gun to the same person every year? Right. You've got to get new blood.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't understand why, as an industry, look, the dairy industry back in the 70s, those of us that are old enough to remember, the dairy industry was fucking dying. Right? They were dying. What did the dairy industry do? They came together, put up a fucking billboard with a cow that said, "Got milk." Right?
Yep. Milk mustache.
The whole fucking world knows that, or the mustache. The whole damn world knows that ad campaign. Why can't paintball get together and do the same thing? Get paintball, right? But you can't, because the people at the top of the industry are so intent on world domination and their own, taking business from each other and fighting for the same fish in the same pool, that they don't get together and go, hey, look, let's just introduce the entire world in a blitz campaign and let's just talk paintball. Don't mention a field owner. Don't mention a manufacturer's logo. Just paintball. And let the people go out and find the fields on their own, find the products on their own, because guess what? They're going to go to the places that give them the best product and the best service automatically. Right?
Yeah, you're right. And I think.
But what happens in our industry is if tomorrow I wanted to do $1 million ad campaign and just say, get paintball, and I went to the industry and I said, guys, I want you guys to get behind this. Nobody would get behind it unless they could put their logo on it.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll give you $50,000 if Pop's Paintball is across the top of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that really make sense to anybody? Does that, what I'm saying make any sense to you guys? Like, do we not need to develop new players somehow? Not just keep on trying to milk the existing base?
Just from somebody that's been outside the industry for a while and hasn't been involved, I'm watching things like John Amadeus, History of Paintball. I see so many paintball videos out there going viral. That's got more eyeballs on that than what our publications did, what we did by word of mouth. You know, the new generation, I guess, and the cameras that are out there, the video talent that is out there, that's really starting to pull in some of these new guys, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
And it's
That's what we need.
Yeah.
New blood. Not a bunch of old goats like us drawing, attention.
Right.
Jeez.
But it's even a little bit more nuanced than Kevin described it as, because it's not just hanging on to it's not just put my logo over the top of this ad campaign. You also get told, oh, and by the way, don't involve so and so.
Yeah.
That is another element as well. Yes.
Yeah.
So, trying to navigate that, you end up being forced to go with one camp or another camp.
Right.
And that's against the entire purpose of the kind of thing that Kevin was describing.
Yep.
And we have not, in 30 years, we haven't found the magic key to somehow explain, describe, promote this thing, this general concept to the industry as a whole, to get them to understand that the pie that they have now, and I'm just making up numbers, let's say it's worth $1 billion. There is a $30 billion pie out there.
Right.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. Without question.
It doesn't matter if your percentage is 1% or 15%, because your potential is 30 times whatever you have now.
Right.
And that message is just not been a successfully transmitted one.
Yep.
It hasn't been believed sufficiently in order to move people to go in that direction.
Makes sense.
I agree. But, we wish it would be that simple. But, we've said these things in different variants before, all the way through, from the beginning, all the way through. And those who are supposed to be listening don't.
But the difference is what you guys created worked. It worked for a while.
It did.
Yeah, it worked until the independent players that only cared about the players suddenly became the industry.
Yeah,
but they were controlled by the money at that point.
So everything we did and all the plans we made and all the good intentions took the members of the board of the NPPL from team captains and players to the end.
Correct.
Yep.
Correct. And
instead of changing the dynamic along the way, they played the same game as if it played up to that point.
No, the shit stayed the same. Only the faces and names changed.
The diaper changed.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem saying that, because I tell them to their faces that,
right,
that, they ruined a good thing getting sucked into television, television. It's all about television.
I recognize that I have an idealistic personality. I have for anything that I'm involved with. I saw The Man of La Mancha as a play too early in life not to believe that tilting at windmills was something that you ought to do. But it's just we can't get people to follow an ideal sufficiently for some reason or another. Sorry for the down note.
No, it's true. The whole thing is truth. Well, a lot of the comments that I've seen from people who are typing in the comments that I put up is truth. You know what I mean? We're having a conversation that a lot of people would agree with and some would disagree. Even the people who would disagree can't say that there aren't elements of truth. Yes, it's perspective. Yes, there's three sides to a story. But what you guys are honestly saying is true because of my involvement with things outside of the industry of paintball. I've had out of industry sponsors. I've had out of industry sponsors try to help paintball, and paintball as an industry hasn't handled it effectively. You know, I mean, I guess that's the most tactful way for me to put it.
Well,
but
is there even an industry group surviving anymore? Because no. I mean, I know airsoft, okay, and airsofters will not be liking me too much after I say this, but
who cares?
There was an opportunity.
I love you, Kevin.
As a paintball industry person, I was scared to death of airsoft because airsoft was much cheaper than paintball and delivered many of the same things that paintball delivered. Okay, and I'm not even going to start with the arguments of people don't cheat playing airsoft. Yeah, haha.
Right. No.
But there was an opportunity legally for the paintball industry to squash airsoft in this country.
Yeah.
And to not have to deal with it as a competitive shooting sport. And the industry did not in any way, shape, or form seize upon that. All they had to do was come out in support of a gun that looks like a gun has to have an orange flash on the end. And then no kid is going to run out in the woods and play Army with an orange gun. End of story. Popularity dead. And the opportunity, alternatively, to aggressively bring airsoft in under the umbrella of paintball was also there.
That's what I always push for.
And not taken advantage of in any way, shape, or form because there is no coherent industry. So here's an example where working together for a common goal was the exact right thing to do for an industry looking out for its own best interests, and it didn't happen. So that's the kind of environment that we're dealing with.
Now, the $1 million
airsoft has been probably the most healthy thing to happen to the retail paintball business in the last 10 years.
Into the fields.
And to the fields, you know. So as much as I dislike the game and the LARPing and all of that nonsense, it has helped. It has helped to keep paintball fields and stores going. So
it's helped.
Kudos.
But it could have helped a lot more had the industry acted in a coherent fashion to deal with it. And they just didn't.
But are you saying that those players would have naturally progressed into paintball if airsoft wasn't an option?
No, what I'm saying is look at it from a pure, straightforward, cutthroat business angle.
Yep.
You have a competitive product,
correct,
that you have the opportunity to either take control of and bring in under your own umbrella and therefore make your dollars, or you have the opportunity to make it go away as a competitor. You're going to do something,
right?
Not nothing.
The big manufacturers and bigger ones in paintball are in airsoft too, Steve. In case you
they have been, but you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Yeah.
They made overtures to some of the bigger distributors in airsoft at the time, and those guys said, "What the fuck do we need you for?"
Yeah.
Right. It's true.
Well, I always hoped there would be a little more love between, airsoft and paintball myself, but that's a whole nother level of haters.
Personally, one way or the other, if somebody wants to go out and
play what you want to play. I don't give a shit if you want to go out like we did before there was shoot each other with bows and arrows and BB guns. I don't.
Yeah, BB guns. That's what I did.
I care about paintball.
Bows and arrows. I don't know. That's some real.
You used to take the tips off and just shoot the sticks at each other.
Yeah.
Because even target arrows are gonna mess you up.
Yeah. Nah, you took the tip off.
Slingshots with acorns. You don't
Yeah.
know what
Oh,
it feels
yeah.
like.
Yeah,
to
that
hit
was
an
always
acorn.
good. That was always good.
That made it fun because you got a real reaction. I shot somebody. Ah!
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
just shoot the shafts at each other. No aluminum. Had to be wood.
Yeah.
That won't poke out an eye or anything. But anyway,
Come on. You care about your eyes?
right. What I want to do is I want to thank all of you first for coming here. I know that we have hundreds of comments already through this. There's going to be a lot of mail that all of us will get about questions, concerns, issues, what have you. I want you guys to know that you're welcome back here to do this again. Do it with Kevin. We can talk about whatever, whenever. It was an absolute joy to hear even some of the stories. Not even a small percentage of the stories have been shared. We could go on.
There's a lot of them we can't share.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of stuff. There's so much more we could talk about, you know?
Right. Of course.
And especially to have the three of us together. I mean, look,
yes,
I can't tell you how much I appreciate just seeing these two guys, man.
Right.
I mean, people always talk on every one of your podcasts or webcasts. Everybody says, oh, I want to thank this guy and I want to thank that guy and I want to thank this sponsor. And I got to tell you, these two right here, these two guys right here are two of my closest and most special friends that I've ever had in paintball. I mean, we have spent endless hours together, trying to do what we always thought was best for this game. Not personal. It had nothing to do with our egos. But, I can't say enough how much I appreciate you, Steve, and I appreciate you, Rene. I mean, you guys are just fucking awesome. Just fucking awesome.
Back at you.
Back at you, Kev.
I mean,
You've
to be
done
honest,
so much.
it's such a treat for me just to be able to think back,
Let's hope that everybody's out of their house by the time your event goes on. I saw something Jerry had put out something to the governor.
We're waiting on a response.
Yeah.
Look, I hope you guys come down for this. Come on, Steve. I need you to run a splat table.
I'll try.
Rene, come on, Rene. Come on
come
down.
down with me, Steve. We'll carpool down.
All right.
just like the old days.
Yeah.
Just like the.
But I'd love to get on and do this again with you guys. I really would.
For me, in the old days, I was driving up from Jersey, not down from New Hampshire.
Yeah, I know. You're driving from an hour away from me.
Yep. Yeah, that was easy.
Well, guys,
I've had a great time this show. I really had a great time.
Thank you, Brad.
Yes, no, and I want to welcome. I want to welcome you guys back. After we get all of these questions, let's do it again. I'll talk to Kevin. I'm in constant contact with him, but Steve, Rene, if you would need to contact me with anything, Kevin, just his energy is draining his phone again. But again, I appreciate it. I mean, I grew up in this sport. I read paintball news cover to cover. I was fortunate enough to spend time with guys who respected both of you, and therefore I was raised to respect you guys. So thank you for coming in.
Just feel old, Brad.
No, well, no, not at all. But I really appreciate it, and it means a lot to me. And judging by the people who have had comments through our entire program, it means a lot to a lot of people. So again, I'll welcome you guys back, and I just want to thank you for doing this.
Well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Wherever you are, Steve, we hear you and thank you. So thanks again. And thank everyone for watching this episode. Feel free to contribute and post up questions or concerns, and we'll do this again. Thank you, everyone.
Peace out.